Oops. Okay, now we have our I have unmuted myself. Okay, how are we doing? I hope we are doing it well. Uh, so am I am I still good? I think there's about a 20-second uh delay. I think that'd be fair to assume. Am I still muted? I hope I'm not. It's good. Okay, and I need to turn the lights on. Just have to turn the light on. Okay, who do we have in the chat today? We have Steve, Pizza Knuckle. Good day, folks. Jens says moin. Uh, Pizza asking Jens moin or morning. Jens answering moin is the universal greeting in my area. Okay, wonderful. Well, it's 7 a.m. for Peter, so either works for me. Supergoat says good evening and good morning, one and all. And good to see everyone. I was muted and now everything seems to be fine. Oh, yeah. What a day it has been. What a week it has been. Interesting. So let's put yeah. So where do I begin? Um, Let me begin from last week. Last week we discussed, or I discussed with you, certain uh, transphobic incidents in the good old United States of America. So now, what do we need for today regarding this subject? More deep shittery. Okay, let me get this. This is from edition.cnn.com from January 24th of this year. Sorry, I need to fix the light. Okay. Peter says a swift kick in the pants for politicians would be a good start. Yes. However, I must say I do not endorse violence on my channel. Perhaps occasional facepalm would do it for that kind of stuff. Okay, and Jens says I'd suggest a mains powered cattle prod. Okay. So from CNN Politics, Florida GOP, which means good old grand old party, meaning the Republican Party, lawmaker advanced bill prohibiting schools from quote unquote encouraging talk of sexual orientation and gender identity in some classrooms. Uh, Florida state lawmakers advanced a bill last week that would prohibit schools from encouraging whatever the hell that means. Conversation about sexual orientation and gender identity in classrooms with young students. And I should mention the lawmakers did not specify what young students mean. They did not specify, so it could mean anything. So, yeah. The Bill uh, HB 1557, titled Parental Rights in Education. Oh, come on. Seriously. Uh, was passed by the state house's GOP controlled Education and Employment Committee on Thursday by a vote of 15 to 5. What? This actually went. I didn't actually read this properly. This passed already in a committee by 15 to 5. What the actual fuck? This is even worse than I thought. Okay, the bill's sponsor says the legislation aims to provide parents with greater oversight over what their students learn and discuss at school. Opponents have said it will have harmful impact on LGBTQ youth, whom they say are at an increased risk for suicide and depression and other mental health issues and eating disorders, etc., when they are not able to learn about LGBTQ related topics in school. Hmm. Supergirl says, "Is it mandatory for you to put your head in a microwave on full blast for 24 hours to be an ultra conservative, or is it natural to be so backwards thinking?" It's overlapping gener. This may be triggering to former XJWs, XJ Jehovah's Witnesses, but it's overlapping generations. Um, it's a cross generational issue. Your it runs in the family. You know, your parents are or their parents, say their grandparents are or were indoctrinated in a certain way to think in a certain way. Be it like, for example, something like this. They were indoctrinated to think like this, and it would be more than natural to it would be very fair to assume that they would indoctrinate their children uh, about they would indoctrinate their children in the same way, and then your parents would indoctrinate you. Uh, but Peter, may I remind you of the when when the school system became started to become more of a thing, less and less people turned to hard manual labor, like in farms, and more people actually went to school. At least here in Finland, this would have happened in the late 1800s. Uh, Back then, um, the lower class people who never went to school, couldn't read or write, or maybe, and even if they could, it was very very poorly, but weren't educated any further than learning to read and write, because books made you lazy. And may I shout out to Sir Sick. Um, Sir Sick is a wonderful content creator here on YouTube. He made a video about some evangelical type of person who made the argument that books and studying makes you stupid. Why would he think? Why would he discourage reading books, learning new things, learning science, learning from history, learning from the mistakes of made by their forefathers? They would That would encourage critical thinking. And critical thinking, when you really learn critical thinking skills, that tends to lean you towards not being so religious. You that in some cases make you abandon religion and become an atheist, because you see it. Critical thinking and science and all that makes you to open your eyes and see that the Bible or the Quran or the Torah, the Talmud, etc., the religious writings are factually incorrect. So that's what they discourage, um, because then the kids would see through their bullshit. This is the same thing here. Uh, oh, one more thing before I go um, any further. Uh, in what way are these parents qualified? In what way, in any shape or form, are these parents qualified to evaluate which subjects and which topics are are not or should not be in the curriculum, in the official public in the official school curriculum, the state curriculum, um, unless these unless a parent is an actual teacher themselves. uh, if a parent is a teacher, that's a different thing. If they are a legit teacher, like English, math, science, history, etc., if they are an actual teacher, then they do have a valid argument. They do have a valid argument. Then these parents have a valid argument on what should or shouldn't be in the official curriculum, and hence can make rational decisions, i.e., have the LGBTQ plus stuff spoken about in schools. Okay, um, let's say Peter says, "Forget tradition, just think for yourself. Critical thinking and religion don't mix well." Jens says, and I quote, "My child, my rights, my decision," precisely. Reminds me, for Super Ghost, excuse me, reminds me of a quote: "When men are oppressed, it's a tragedy. When women are oppressed, it's tradition." It really seems to apply to more than just women. Yes, it's queer people too. Okay, let's. I need to Also, at this point, please check the links in the description box. Please, if you haven't already, thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, all the people in the chat right now are subscribed, or at least I should hope so. If you those watching replay, if you haven't subscribed, please do so now and tickle the notification bell. Also check my PayPal and Patreon, and huge thank you and shout out to Flems, who is my patron so far, the only patron. Okay, sorry. Okay, let's go. Yeah. So, it continues the CNN article. The bill's sponsor says the legislation aims to provide parent. Hang on. Yes, this we just went through. Okay. Uh, the proposed legislation comes as policymakers around the country are engaged in spirited debates over parental rights, and which social issues are taught in the classroom. Um, with LGBTQ related topics on um, a major target for conservatives who say conversations around those subjects should be left for families to discuss at home. Why? Why should that be so? Uh, be, because as we go into the evangelical and when we go to the conservative households, neither have the will nor they have neither the will nor the knowledge of the topics to be able to discuss these issues with their children, other than the uh, the Leviticus order stoned the gays to death. That's the only thing they know about gay people. Stone them to death. It's an abomination. Uh, the legislation would make it illegal for districts to adopt procedures or students support forms that prohibit school district personnel from notifying parent a parent on his or her student's mental, emotional, or emotional or physical health or well-being. So something that LGBTQ advocates argue could lead to some students being unintentionally outed to their parents, which is absolutely correct. That it would lead to that, and why the fudge monkey am I getting all these? Okay, whatever. Okay. In addition, and I quote, a school district may not encourage classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity in primary grade levels. That would be, if I interpret it's it's a flexible term, as I understand it, is either from up until years up until the age of the classes up until the age of 11, or up until the year 10, from 1 to 6, or 1 to 10, I think. Okay, or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students, according to the proposal, which would allow parents to bring civil suits against a school district for any potential violation of its rules. Right. they are wording the bill in such a way that it allows significant room for interpretation. There's a significant space for the interpretation that the parents or and the school boards and legis- the legislatures and the courts can proceed with any kinds of cases, and the cases can be won either way based on this very vague interpretation of the law because it's been worded in such a way. Why am I getting all these ads here? Okay, whatever. Okay, while the bill doesn't define primary grade levels, its its sponsor, Republican State Representative Joe Harding, told CNN on Monday that it would apply to students in kindergarten through third grade. At that age, they need to be worried about reading and worrying about their math. For me, but it's not defined. He says this. Mr. Joe Harding says is that it would the sponsor of the bill says it would apply from kindergarten, kindergarten, or what would I think the British would call it nursery, up until third grade, but it doesn't say so in the bill. So there, even though Mr. Joe Harding um, says says that kindergarten through third grade, they say that now, when the bill pass, if the bill passes, and in 5 years, even from 2 or 3 years from now, they can say something completely different. Hmm? So they leave a back door open, because they can, um, then they have space to reevaluate their position. Okay. Uh, yeah. The HB 1557 is being strongly opposed by Democrats in the state, the Democratic Party. By the way, here you can see that they offer flights from Helsinki to London for 36 euros, which is incredibly cheap. Okay, so and a number of LGBTQ advocacy group, including the Trevor Project, a non-profit organization that works on suicide prevention among LGBTQ youth. The group said last week that if passed, the bill would ban classroom discussion about sexual orientation in schools, erasing LGBTQ identity and history and culture, as well as LGBTQ students themselves. Uh, Superghost says it's always bad news uh, for oppressors when the oppressed become more powerful than them. Uh, History might be written by the victor, but it never forgets the atrocities committed precisely. Okay. 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 Here. Okay. We have. And I think I went through this last week. It's horrible. Christian morals are being offended by teaching biology. Uh, yes, but and there is a voice message that I am yet to play. I won't play it now because this isn't really about that. Okay, so the Trevor Project research has found that LGBTQ youth who learned about the LGBTQ issues or people in classes at at school had 23% lower odds of reporting a suicide attempt in the past year, said Sam Ames. Sam Ames, okay, the group's director of advocacy and government affairs, in a statement. This bill would erase young LGBTQ students across Florida, forcing many back in the closet by policing their identity and silencing important discussions about the issues they face. This is the one of the issues with the it in that this has the potential, this particular bill and the legislation, this type of legislation. I'm afraid that the body count will start piling up through suicide. I'm afraid, and other mental health issues. I hope, truly hope not, but I fear the worst. Okay, now you have Florida State Representative Anna Escamani. Excuse me. A Democrat who is among the bill's opponents told CNN's Alison Camerota Monday that it's, and I quote, offensive for the state of Florida to consider such legislation. Going on, uh, and I quote from Anna Escamani, said, "You know, represent Pulse nightclub in my district. Every day we have young people who ask questions about what happened at Pulse, who was impact at Pulse, who was impacted by Pulse. It is so important that we have these conversations and talk about every type of family within our schools," she said on Newsroom. Yes, even kindergarten and third grade children will see different kinds of families. If you do not talk, if you, what happens the um, when the child of a lesbian couple or a gay couple goes to kindergarten and the school tells the kid, your family doesn't exist. What your parents are doing is a sin and abomination. What happens then? Hmm? What kind of scar does that leave to to these poor children? Think about that. And that and because the teachers and the school district would get sued because the other parents don't want because if they talk about this poor child's family, this poor child's parents, uh, then the other parents come, then the politicians, the and everyone comes in telling this child that your parents are sin are sinful and are living in sin. What does that tell? How do you tell that to a child? Like seriously? Oh, sorry, I have issues with the. Okay, the HB 557 is also taking heat from Transportation Secretary um, Pete Buttigieg's husband, Chaston, who said last week in a tweet directed at Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis that the bill will get kids, just as I said earlier. Okay? Uh, Chaston Buttigieg wrote that the governor is purposefully making your state a harder place for LGBTQ kids to survive and cited data from. Excuse me, I'm tired. Cited data from Trevor Project about queer youth who have seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year. CNN reach out to DeSantis office for comments on the tweets, but apparently never received an answer. What do we have? Uh, Superghost says it's been said too many times that the conservatives need to keep up with the times. They are only digging their own graves by holding so desperately onto the past. Yes, indeed. Okay, and then we have these conservatives. What do they do? Hang on. Yeah, and yeah, the conservatives. Remember, why do I have it? Okay. So the conservatives. Remember when I told the conservatives in the book? Oh, wrong conservative. Um, sorry, these conservatives burned the books. It's on the rise. This is in Germany, uh, Tennessee. Oh no, this is Germany, and that is Tennessee. Mm, mm, yeah, yeah. Come on, conservatives. You can do better than that. And by the way, I haven't, um, my co-host, my co-host, Stefan and Bertil. Okay. Peter Nuttall says history repeating itself, never a good thing. It never is it? Okay. And this don't say Gabriel. It's just horrendous. Okay. Okay, I need. Okay, then I'll bring another CNN article. Let's do it. Let's do this shit. Okay, okay. Florida governor. And doesn't it? Doesn't it look? That man looks ugly. Okay. Uh, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis appeared Monday to voice support for the controversial state bill that would ban certain discussions about sexual orientation and gender identity in the classroom. Okay. Okay, Peter, I got your message on Discord. Okay. So, by the way, there was a weird thing happened with the Madonna Queen of Pop. Some video suddenly a dozen views and couple of hours of worth worth of viewing time disappeared and now appears to be catching up. Okay, so where do I have it? Okay. Um, Peter says we need to learn from history or we are bound to suffer it again. Precisely. Okay, so uh, DeSantis, a Republican, said it was entirely appropriate for teachers and school uh, administrators to have conversations with students about their gender identity, saying that in some schools, children are told, "Don't worry, don't pick your gender yet." DeSantis said, though also acknowledged, "I don't think it's happening here in large numbers." Um, Going on to say, schools need to be teaching kids to read, to write, and history. The governor said at a press event Monday. They need to teach them science, precisely science, peer-reviewed science, not creationism. Creationism is not science, especially young Earth creationism. Then he went on to say, we need more civics and understanding in uh, United States Constitution, what makes our country unique, all those basic things, and also about the Trail of Tears, the slavery, etc., etc. It's the first time DeSantis publicly signaled support for the efforts by state Republican lawmakers to shut down certain conversations in schools about sexual orientation and gender identity, though he did not directly say whether he should sign the bill if it reached his desk when asked about it Monday. He remarked that it appeared to strongly suggest he is supportive. Supergirl says if we ban teaching about LGBTQ plus from schools, why don't we also ban religions slash Christian studies too? LGBTQ plus people have existed far longer than Christianity. Peter says so much for freedom of speech in in USA. Precisely, this is censorship and thought crime. It's thought crime. This is like it's like 1984, the Orwell's book, or is it 1985, something like that. The George Orwell's book about mind control and shit, and some uh, a news broadcaster or a news anchor or someone when she meant to say Gestapo, she said gazpacho. Gazpacho is Spanish called veggie soup, and Gestapo is the former East German secret police. And so that's how much the Americans know about actual real life things. They called Gestapo Gazpacho. So yeah, that's about knowing history and science. Hmm? History and culture. They refer this report. I think it was on Fox News or something. Talked about uh, try to make a reference or try to make a connection between uh, the vaccines, masks, vaccines, masks, and the restrictions versus Gestapo, which Jens says the Gestapo was the Nazi secret police. East Germany had Stasi. Okay, sorry, I was mistaken. Gestapo was Nazi Germany. Stasi was East Germany, but they did pretty much the same thing. Um, it was the same thing basically, just that same shit, different rappers. But it's yeah, it's still same thing, different rappers. But this asshole, I think it was in Fox News, when she was trying to talk about Gestapo, she said Gazpacho. So and it's been the internet has gone wild. Okay, the opponents of the bill warned that it would lead to further stigmatization of gay, lesbian, and transgender children, um, causing more bullying and suicides within already marginalized uh, community. Okay, what do we have? Yeah, says now the US has the DHS with the same tasks and rights. What in the world is? I've never heard of this. This gotta be good. This. Oh yeah, Homeland Security. Homeland Security. Yeah. Founder George W. Bush in November 25th, 2002, says the internet. Yeah. Okay. But as for the president of the United States, we have the BBC, the British Broadcasting Company. The U.S. President Joe Biden has condemned uh, has condemned a Florida bill that would ban discussion of sexual orientation in primary schools as hateful to LGBT students. Governor Ron DeSantis has signaled his backing for the measure and appears to have enough support to pass the bill to pass through the state's Republican-led legislature. I butchered that, I know. Activists has have dubbed the have dubbed it the HB 1557 as don't say gay bill and warn it will stigmatize LGBT people and issues. But it's preparing to say the legislation is about protecting parental rights. Protecting parental rights. Here we are. I'm gonna take up on this parental rights. How parental rights and school. How does that sound like uh, parents wanting to censorship? Uh, okay, let me put it this way. I think we should, when we talk about schools and what we what is taught in the school system. What we should talk about is children's rights. What are the children entitled to? What is good for the children? What is the uh, consensus on what is good for the child? When we talk about changes or what is taught, what happens in the school? What happens in the schools? What is taught in the schools? What is important, in my opinion? I don't know about you, my dear viewers, but my humble opinion is that what is most important in schools is the children and the children's rights, not the parents and the parents' rights. Do parents go to the school every single day, stay 8 to 4 or 9 to 4 or 3? Where do children spend, say, ages 6, 6 to 16? Where do they spend most of their day? During day, during daytime, where do they spend most of their time? That is correct. School, or at least they should. Where do parents spend most of their day? The daytime. Mostly those, the parents of the same family. For the sake of argument, where do the parents of the same family spend most of their daytime? At work. At work or home if they are unemployed. Do they go to the school with their children? Usually not. So, why should we care about the parental rights in school when they hardly spend any time there? They typically they just drop off their kids at school and pick them up, or walk them to the school bus stop and pick them up from the school bus stop after before and after the day. So why should we care about the parental rights in the school system? Hmm? Where I live, parents do have the right to choose the school and the language of the school. Uh, so yeah, Peter says children need knowledge, not censorship. Correct. Um, Basically, when my partner and I, when we have at some point when we have kids, um, hopefully we'll have kids. They will. We live in Finland, and my first language is Finnish, but uh, our kids will go to a Swedish speaking school just out of convenience. So we that is that parental rights are that kind of thing, that kind of things. Parents can often choose with not always, but here and there can choose which school they go to. You can choose if in America if you wish to censor the information your children is getting. Uh, why not homeschool? Why not homeschool? Okay, okay. Actually, I think I should. Uh, Superghost says your first language can't be Finnish because you never started. LOL. Sorry, had to repeat that stupid joke. Yeah. Very funny. Very funny. Uh, Very fun. Okay. Uh, I think I might as well, because it's essential. I think it's essential that we listen to this message that I received. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay. Let's do this like this. Okay. So this is with regard to the uh, Oklahoma bill, which would have been, Oklahoma bill would fire teachers for offending Christian morals by teaching biology. Okay, so if you can please tell me if you can hear this, please tell me so. You should hear this.
Okay, I'm just gonna do it this way because, I don't really know how to get my thoughts out on it. I think it's wrong. I really do. I think that teachers shouldn't be sued for stuff like that. And, if a child is curious about the LGBTQ plus community or religion, anything like that, I think it should be straight up facts that we give the children. Just because we hide it from them or don't teach it doesn't mean it's going away. It means that we're not preparing the children. We're making them ignorant.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
that whole thing is just a load of absolute bullshit, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, a friend of mine told me, now I haven't gotten any paper clippings, articles about this, but supposedly Iowa is going to take away history, essentially, and they're trying to no longer teach about the Trail of Tears and slavery and anything that could make America look bad in a hole. And I'm just, this kind of sounds a bit like North.
And just for those who do not know, what Trail of Tears is that according to Wikipedia, the Trail of Tears was a part of Indian, aka Native American, removal, an ethnic cleansing, and series of forced displacements of approximately 60,000 Native Americans of the five civilized tribes between 1830 and 1850 by the United States government. Removal for this event was gradual, occurring over a period of a nearly decade. So that's just for context.
North Korea, guys. I don't know. I'm going to be homeschooling, definitely, because they're just really taking out what needs to be taught. Like, how can you not teach about slavery? Or that the white man took the Indians' land and brutalized all the people. Okay, me personally, I had no clue that women and children were raped and beaten and killed on the Trail of Tears until I was about 15 because they don't teach us that. They already. They try to make the white people seem like a good-natured folk it, and that we just wanted to come together for peace. And if we're teaching straight up facts, then that's how we don't have history repeat itself. And I think definitely in this time, the LGBTQ plus community, their voices need to be heard too.
Yes, and I told the person who sent me that this recording is like liquid gold and diamonds. So good. Like so good. Thank you. If you're watching, thank you. Thank you. I really enjoy. Really enjoyed your uh, take on this subject. I really appreciate it. This is a person I've known for a while, for a number of years now. But anyway, uh, Peter says yes. Go says just look at the culture in the past where LGBTQ weren't discriminated against. It is it is evidence that people can flourish without such extreme hate and discrimination. Peter says, yes, we had something similar in Australia, such stolen generation. I know what you're talking about. The Aborigine um, children from the Aborigines were stolen or snatched, abducted, whichever you see want to use, and then abused, sent to a lost generation. They stole an entire generation of Aborigines or children of Aborigines from their families. Took them to the white cities, put them to school, made them, all the shit. I know about that. I've heard. And Supergirl says that lady is a legend. She is indeed. I shall, if she isn't watching, I shall pass her the news. Anyway, let's just go back for a moment for the CNN article. Okay, so let's say at a news conference earlier, White House press secretary Jen Psaki said, every parent hopes that our leaders will ensure their children's safety, protection, and freedom." Today, conservative politicians in Florida rejected those basic values by advancing legislation that is designed to target and attack the kids who need the support the most. Precisely. The state laws that ban or constrain the discussion of LGBT life in classrooms, sometimes sometimes referred to as no promo homo laws, are not uncommon. Several were introduced in the 1970s and 1980s, closely correlated with anti-gay rights activism at the time, but many have long been repealed, luckily. Um, Currently, four US states, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, and Texas, have laws on the books that expressly prohibit or limit sex education to heterosexual activity. Last year, Tennessee and Montana passed laws that allow parents to opt out their children uh, opt their children out of discussions on sexual orientation and gender identity. What is so horribly wrong with that? I do not understand. And when they ban someone from sports, it's always trans girls and women. Why is it always trans women and girls? Why is it never trans men and masculines? Why? Tell me that. Why? Uh, Last year, Tennessee and Montana. Uh, okay, the Florida bill goes a step further, allowing parents to directly sue school districts and seek damages if they believe an educator has broken the law. Jens says U.S. sex ed don't precisely. That's pretty much it. Don't. Although the ban will, in theory, apply largely to sex education courses at the primary grade level, it also calls on school districts to avoid LGBT topics when not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students. Right. Echoing the ban of echoing the text of the bill, Governor DeSantis says uh, a a Republican uh, widely touted as a possible 2024 White House contender said schools should avoid entirely inappropriate topics and instead be teaching science, history, civics, and other lessons, but they don't. And if they tell you otherwise, they're lying. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. This is just yeah. Just let your kids believe in unicorns and read the Bible. Oh no, sorry. What Bible? The LGBT plus books. Okay. So, do you have any more questions, commentary, etc., etc.? And and if not, I shall go. Okay. I shall let this contact know that a viewer says she is a legend. Okay, okay. Yes, Supergirl says this is just a clear power grab for the future, even if it goes against reality. Peter saying they don't live in reality. That is actually correct. Okay, what do I think. Yeah, I think I'm Am I recording? What? Which hard drive is this going? Okay, so without further ado, I think it's time for me to love you and leave you. So, and this is Stefan once again. You know him already. And it's back there. Yeah, sometimes Bertil goes around like this. Okay, so please thumbs up, subscribe, and tickle the notification. Subscribe and tickle the notification bell. Check the links: PayPal, Patreon, Discord, and playlists. Super Ghost says much love and best wishes to everyone. That I will say to you and every one of you. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you on Monday and on before that on Discord. And I say bye.